Tonight, we also pay special tribute to two gifted Kansas Cityans who really need no introduction for most of us who are familiar with philanthropy and social service in our area. Our 2014 Vision to Action awardees are Jan Kreamer and Steve Rowling. Everyone knows Jan Kreamer as one of Kansas City's most strategic thinkers. During the center's early days, she helped facilitate an effort with the Greater Kansas City Community Foundation that assisted our fledgling organization in receiving a 3-year grant with key milestones and deliverables to get us on the right footing for our future work. She and her husband, Tom, are not only personal donors to the center, but she has been willing to utilize her contacts and open doors for the center, as she did with the relationships with the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, which eventually led to our being named by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation as the National Program Office for the multi-year community-state partnerships to improve end-of-life care. The center worked with community and state coalitions in more than 24 states as a result of that effort, which placed the center at the center of the national dialogue on end-of-life in America. Jan has repeatedly volunteered her time to advise the center in strategic planning areas and has always been willing to meet and brainstorm about challenging issues that we face. She's always had a strong conviction about the work that we undertake, no matter how big or small. Retired as the CEO of the Community Foundation, she now serves as the chair of the board of trustees of the Ewing Marion Kauffman Foundation. She's been a devoted advocate to the causes of children, strengthening nonprofits, and remains deeply committed to sound healthcare delivery and a variety of civic causes. She serves on the boards of the Edna McConnell Clark Foundation, the Kauffman Center for the Performing Arts, and Blue Cross Blue Shield of Kansas City. In 2012, she was the recipient of the Greater Kansas City Chamber of Commerce Athena Award for achieving professional excellence, devoting time and energy to the community and opening doors of leadership to women. Please join me in recognizing Jan Kreamer.
Thank you, John. I appreciate those kind words. I appreciate very much my husband, Tom, my son, Tom, and his wife, Stephanie, for being here tonight. It means the world to me that you're here. I truly believe that this recognition that we are talking about tonight is truly a celebration of when philanthropy gets it right. The Center for Practical Bioethics is a sterling example of an investable idea that was driven by visionary and sustainable leadership in the form of Myra and John, was driven and guided by a very engaged board that formed remarkable partnerships around their work. And at the end of the day, they were able to produce the kind of evidence that let us all know that the results that were coming out of the center were truly changing lives in our community and across the country. I was very fortunate to work for an organization, a philanthropic organization called the Greater Kansas City Community Foundation, who had on its board of directors who challenged us all as staff to find those investable ideas, to be able to take those ideas and connect them to donors, so along with the staff, we could have the privilege of being a part of making a difference in our community. And the center is an embodiment of those investable ideas. So tonight, I am very proud that many of my former colleagues are here from the Community Foundation, some of our past chairs that I had the privilege of working with. And so on behalf of the Greater Kansas City Community Foundation and the people that are represented here, join me in accepting this award as an example of when philanthropy gets it right. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Steve Rowling is a social worker by training and a revered and respected community leader whose humility and convictions in serving the most vulnerable, especially in relation to how the poor are cared for within our health systems, earns him the designation, at least in our book, as a man of integrity and salt of the earth. Steve has served on the ethics committee at St. Joe Medical Center many years ago when the center was first helping to organize it. Sister Rosemary Flanagan, who most of you know and saw this evening, cherished him and knew that his insights and perspectives were truly patient-focused. In his role with the Business Journal, he sought to address the needs of healthcare and worked often with the center over time. As director of the Missouri Department of Social Services, we knew we had a reliable contact in Jeff City and could always rely on him for sound information as policy issues arose. During his tenure at the Healthcare Foundation of Greater Kansas City, Northland Healthcare Access and the center successfully approached the Healthcare Foundation to find a solution to the need for specialty care for the underserved. MetroCare, now in its 7th year, has recruited over 900 specialists in the Metropolitan Medical Society to donate their services to those in need. Steve believes in the vision of the center and in helping us to think about how to make our work successful for others. Prior to Steve's leadership as founding president and CEO of the Healthcare Foundation of Greater Kansas City, he provided leadership to several other organizations, including the state of Missouri, senior vice president of the Ewing Marion Kauffman Foundation, publisher of the Kansas City Business Journal, and other positions in public service. Steve is married to Judy, and I'm sure besides proudly laying claim to the titles of husband and father, I know his most coveted title is that of grandpa. Please join me in congratulating Steve Rowling.
Two weeks ago, I became a pawpaw for the 4th time. So that's my greatest accomplishment. It's a joy to be with all of you tonight, and Jan, you're absolutely right. This is what every non-for-profit should be. A sterling idea, executed to perfection, and look at the good you've done. In thinking about the significance of celebrating 30 years of service, I think about 2 quotes, one of which Sister Rosemary's always used. Sister Rosemary's always a step ahead of me. Margaret Mead's quote, and it is so true. A small group of thoughtful people can change the world. Indeed, that's the only thing that ever has. Just think what a small group of visionary people, have changed the views of millions and millions of people, not just in this region, not just in this nation, but around the world, and how we think about ethical and death and dying issues. Truly amazing accomplishment in 30 years. And the second quote is from our beloved Kansas City and Ewing Kauffman. Mr. K told us, always treat others as you want to be treated, with dignity, respect, and humility. And that's what the center is trying to teach us all. It has led our nation and our region in discussing complicated and sometimes gut-wrenching issues in a thoughtful and reasoned manner by authentically listening and talking with our loved ones, while at the same time respecting their dignity and their final wishes. Because of the Caring Conversation booklet that I hope each of you will pick up tonight when you leave, and Joanne Berkeley, I give her credit, Father Noam Rodert, Myra, I give their credit, Sister Rosemary. Many years ago, they told me about this booklet and asked me to sit down and read it, and they provided me some counseling. In November of 2003, day after Thanksgiving, my father was told that he had 3 months to live. Hard thing to hear. I was in the room when the doctor told him. The first month, my dad lived 2 months after that. He didn't quite make the 3 months. The first month, he had pretty good health, and frankly, we had time to talk about things that in the previous 55 years, we somehow just never had time to talk about. And I knew exactly what he wanted for his future. I knew what he wanted. He told me. We signed the legal documents. The day before my dad died, he was in a coma the last 3 or 4 days. My dad was in a coma. He kind of opened his eyes. I happened to be holding his hand at the time. And he looked at me and he said, in a mumbled voice, "Steve, I signed it. I signed it." And I nodded. I said, "I know, Dad. That tube is just for pain. I know you signed it." What a gift. What a gift. Get this book. Look at it. Read it. It will change your life. My dad and my mom taught me how to live, but they also taught me how to die. On behalf of the Healthcare Foundation Board and staff, on behalf of the wonderful doctors and staff at MetroCare, imagine 900, I think it's a little more than that now, maybe 1,200 docs in this community provide free care to poor people because it's the right thing to do. An amazing accomplishment. We all are inspired, deeply inspired, and we all are challenged to leave the world a better place than we found it because of what this center has accomplished. I can't wait to see what this small group of center visionaries can accomplish in the next 30 years because, as you remember, the only thing that changes the world is a small group of thoughtful people. Thanks for your leadership.